said, we're going to do the Contensis product update. Just to caveat, anyone who attended Velocity, everything that you're going to see today is the same as we saw in Velocity. So if you have signed up expecting to see additional things than what you saw at Velocity, then sorry, this is the Velocity update for those who couldn't join us. We can go into formalities. Those of you who don't know me, I'm Richard Saunders. I'm the Senior Product and Design Manager here at Zengenti, and I help define the roadmap and the product direction. I want to give you a quick update on our move towards a digital experience platform. For those of you who've joined webinars or saw us at Velocity last year, we mentioned that we would be focusing on delivering personalization, digital asset management, and forms. So a few releases back, we released forms, and in the recent 17.1 release, we focused on personalization. And so today we're going to run through personalization that's in 17.1 to give you a flavor of what you can do and achieve. So what is personalization? It's about creating tailored content experiences that speak to your audience. And it's about showing the most relevant content to each visitor. And the way it works is through a series of layers within the Contensis stack. We've effectively got these four main areas: signals and custom attributes. These are effectively identifiers as somebody comes to your site that go, okay, this person may be looking at this area of your website, and they may have carried out this task or this task. And from there, we can begin to understand user behavior. Combining multiple signals together as an audience or as a set of rules within an audience allows us to create content and target content to particular groups of people. And content personalization is creating and managing your entries with personalized content that is written and geared towards those audiences. Now, all this comes together in the delivery of that content in your front end site. And we use a manifest file and some packages on the front end that work together to understand the visitor's intent and display the personalized content to them. So in a bit more detail, signals, as I mentioned, capture the user behavior. So what pages have they viewed? Where are they coming from? What type of browser are they using? And where have they been referred from? Now, we know that we're not going to be able to define every type of signal or user behavior out of the box. So we're also supporting this idea of custom attributes, things that data points that you can define to set up personalization. So maybe if they're registered on your site and they're geared up as a particular type of user or member or product purchaser, or alternatively, you might want to check the local temperature from the city that they're coming from in your app in order to show relevant products, maybe a summer or winter collection of content. So audiences effectively group the visitors based on those shared signals or custom attributes. As I've mentioned, they're built from those signals and custom attributes in a set of rules, and that allows you to then define targeted content delivery. And we do that through allowing authors to tag content with a particular audience, whether that's an entire entry, or to create components that support custom variations. So maybe a hero banner that could have 2 or 3 variations on a homepage or landing page. And once you've got all these rules set up, so whether that's signals or audiences or custom attributes, we have to deploy to your front end site an understanding of all those rules that exist. And we can do that through the deployment of a manifest file. These are effectively a set of screens that you'll be able to see what changes have recently gone on in personalization and choosing to deploy that when you're ready for those new personalized experiences to happen. And as I mentioned on the front end, there's a set of developer packages that we've created that allow you to personalize that content within your own app. And there's plenty of hooks and tools there to help you in that process. So signals help you understand your visitors. And in the Contensis UI, a signal would look like this. So for a university, it might be an international student. So we might say that an international student is somebody that comes to our website, but they're not from the United Kingdom. We could also use a custom attribute to identify something that somebody's carried out. So say, for example, they've populated a particular form. We can say if they've registered for an open day, target this person as yes, and then we got a person who could be an international student who has signed up for an open day, or an internal, a domestic student who's registered for an open day. And then audiences. Audiences allow us to target the right people. And so we can look to say a prospective undergraduate student may be somebody who has viewed a set of arts courses as well as viewed some undergraduate course pages. And if both of those signals are met, we can place that user into the undergraduate art student audience. We need to connect the content to the right people. And we do that in Contensis, in the content type builder or the component builder, by introducing an audience picker. So for example, if you had a hero banner, you could introduce an audience field, as you can see here at the bottom of the fields list, that when that component is used in a landing page like this, you can say this hero banner should be displayed to international students or whichever audience you particularly want to use. And we have our manifest deployment, and here's the personalization screen that shows you all the changes that have gone on in personalization. And then you can look to compare the changes to the current deployed version of that manifest file with our diff viewer. You basically are in control of when the changes to personalization go out through this screen. And as I mentioned, there are some default packages that we've created. So one for React to use with Contensis, React Base, and a JavaScript version as well to roll in your own projects. And Neil's done a great job of documenting the process that personalization goes through and how it works. And here's an example of a component that will display different content depending on the audiences. We fundamentally wanted to build Contensis personalization with a privacy conscious mindset. So there are no cookies that are used. There's no data that is stored in Contensis about those users, and it's all session based. So all this is happening in the local browser, and we're not tracking that behavior and recording that back to Contensis itself. We do this through local storage. So personalization will exist in that user's browser until which time they clear their local storage. Throughout all this, you're going to need to be able to test and to validate that the personalization configuration that you've set up is actually working. So we've also introduced a personalization preview toolbar. This is part of our blocks preview toolbar. So now when you're previewing content, you can open up the personalization toolbar and start to see what different audiences would see in your front end site as the personalization is delivered. So if they were highly engaged art students, maybe the banner would change. And you can see here the background images change from the default, and the language has changed as well. And you can toggle these on and off. You've got additional developer tools that you can use. So if you want to not deploy a new version of the manifest to see personalization changes, you could potentially use the latest preview version of that manifest, as well as clearing local storage and local session data. This is all well and good. I can explain all the different screens, but actually seeing it action will make more sense. So I'm going to head over and we'll do a demo, and we'll do this through looking at a user flow of prospective art students visiting your website. Whilst this is geared around a university example, the same principles can apply to any other type of site. So in this case, we are going to look at two signals, which makes up a prospective undergraduate art student. They are that they're going to visit 2 undergraduate pages, and they're going to visit 3 arts courses. And when we've placed those users into the prospective undergraduate art student, we're going to update and personalize the homepage banner. This banner is going to change from a generic homepage banner geared towards driving people towards an open day. Once that open day banner has been displayed, there's going to be a custom sign up form that is linked from that banner. And when they register for an open day, we then want that hero banner to change again in order to display what they can expect next from the open day itself. And as they're a prospective art student, we want to personalize the content on the homepage and update the listings around events or news that might be displayed from the default experience. So updating it to all particular arts events. So the way we are going to do that, we'll have a homepage with a series of call to actions. In fact, rather than show you screens, because there's lots to show you today, let's head straight over to our Ludlow University site. So this is our example website, and to demonstrate these things. There isn't yet a Ludlow University, but maybe one day. So as part of my story, I said that a visitor who's going to be a prospective art student needs to maybe visit 2 pages to do with undergraduate courses. So if I go to browse all, you can see the URL at the moment is /courses. But if I start to look at undergraduate courses, you can see in the address bar, we've got the undergraduate text in the URL. So I visited accountancy, and then maybe if I go and visit anthropology, and what you'll have noticed is a little red dot has suddenly appeared in the personalization preview toolbar, and I've triggered the prospective undergraduate art student audience. And if I was to quickly come into Contensis to look at that, we looked at prospective undergraduate student. It says that I've viewed undergraduate courses governed by that signal. Now, if I was to just look at the signal, viewed undergraduate courses, we can see that the rules that make up this signal are visitors who go to a page path that contains courses and undergraduate. And as you saw earlier, we've gone to courses undergraduate twice. We visited 2 course pages that happen to be undergraduate courses. So that's the trigger mechanism that's resulted in this particular visitor being in the prospective undergraduate student audience. Okay, so the next part of the prospective arts undergraduate student was that they needed to visit 3 different arts courses. Again, if we were to look at the signal, we can see the signal is defined here. So where the page path contains the arts, so any arts course that exists in the arts with an arts URL will be displayed. So we go back to the home page a minute, head over to browse all courses. I want undergraduate, I want the arts. So if I visit these 3 arts courses, Design BA, Fine Art BA, and Illustration BA, you'll notice now that the notification is updated to 2. So I've now been placed into this undergraduate art student audience. And now the hope is, because we're now a prospective undergraduate art student, is that the homepage banner has now been updated to be more geared towards me being interested in art. And we can see here now the homepage hero banner has changed, and it said unlock your arty side. Now, what I didn't show you earlier on is that these courses, so these events down here are now all geared to arts related content. Now, if I was to just reset where we started, you'll refresh this page. Users. Like the homepage is reset, but these events down here haven't reset. So normally these would be unpersonalized and then should show that personalized content. So we're in an undergraduate art student. We've changed the homepage banner to show unlock your arty side. And what we need to do next is we need to register for the open day. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put us back into this audience. So one of the nice things about this personalization panel is you can trigger an audience directly by just opening it up. And now you can see that the home page has been updated again. So now if we go to book your place, and if I was to fill in this form, so I'm going to use 1Password a minute to do that for us. James Richard student, pre-populate all the info. Want 1 guest, plan starting in 2026. Film studies. Next. Where do you see it? Online. Next. Can submit my data. So now I've registered for an open day. And what that's actually done in our app, we've said if somebody populates an undergraduate open day form, then record a custom attribute that they've filled that in. So now when we return to the home page, you'll see that we've updated the hero banner for a 3rd time. This time it's now showing you what to expect on that open day. So that's that full journey. So we've started off browsing the site as a generic user. As we visited undergraduate content, the page, we recognized that we were in that audience, so we could have updated content on the home page for undergraduate students. Then we explored a couple of arts courses, and from there we placed that user into prospective art students. Which resulted in the homepage being updated to sign up for a particular open day. We've registered for the open day, and we've recorded a custom attribute in the background to say this person has registered for the open day. So we've been able to do another update on the homepage to go, the prospective art students, they've registered. Now what can they expect to find on the open day? So that personalized experience has run through and updated content throughout the site. So let's just dive into Contensis and just see how some of that was constructed. I've obviously shown you the audiences and I've shown you some signals, but let's go and look at what it would look like to update that homepage. So if I go to site view and I update the homepage, users, what we're doing, open entry. If we look here, we have our default hero banner. This kind of VR spacesuit looking individual. And then as we scroll down, the way Felicity has modeled this this example site is she's added some hero banner variants, and these are our personalized variants. So Unlock Your Arty Side at Ludlow University was that first hero banner, and you can see that the content here has is changed from our normal. The background image has been updated, and here's that audience picker that we can set to determine show this content when this audience is detected. And then for the open day, similarly, text and background image has changed, but we're using a different audience now. So show this hero banner once somebody is registered for an open day. So that's using the audience picker. It's using the components to create a custom hero component outside of your default. And if you didn't want this personalized, you could drop these hero banner variants, and obviously all you'll get is your standard homepage. So that's a little bit of an insight to a simple journey using a homepage and a component. But there is an additional example I want to show you based on the person's location. So if we just quickly head over to Keynote, I don't want to go through too much for you, but in this example, we want to understand if a visitor is coming from outside of the UK, and if they are, we want to personalize course testimonials, different calls to action, and course fees to be more relevant to that international audience. So let's go back to the demo. Let's go back to the home page. I'm just going to reset where we were. And just drop things out. Okay, so if I refresh this page, and if I was to go to music, to this music PhD, what you can see now, this content is really focused on somebody who is coming from the UK. So the way you would apply would be via UCAS. You've got course fees that are reflective of the UK audience. As we scroll down this page, we've got a testimonial here from somebody that's previously done the course. These entry requirements have been tabbed into UK, international and other, and it's pre-selected it to the UK. Now, if we wanted to see what it would look like from somebody outside of the UK, we could choose the audience of international student, and straight away we've been able to update the fees on the page. We've been able to update the call to action on this page. The fees have updated here also. As we scroll down the page, we've now got a testimonial from somebody that has studied from outside of the UK, giving it a bit more of a feel that can be relatable. And you can see that the international entry requirements are now highlighted by default. So these are two kind of slightly different experiences, but all utilizing the personalization tools in Contensis. So setting up various signals, audiences, using custom attributes, and using our packages to determine what type of content should be displayed to the end user. So that's personalization. So let's carry on. So as I mentioned, there are React packages and JavaScript packages available. As you can see here, switching out the course fees through this code goes, are they overseas? Are they an international student? If so, switch out that content. And same with the testimonial. Got testimonial component. There's this is international student context, and that course testimonial can be switched out if that content is available. So personalization is an additional license on top of your normal CMS license. If you want to use location-based attributes, then you'll need to be on the advanced plan in order to do that. And we do hope to further extend from country codes into regions as well, in more detail, depending on the uptake of the new feature. So that's licensing and cost, and all this feature is already available in 17.1. If it's something that you're interested in, it's probably worth chatting to your account manager, and then we can either organise a short trial or get you set up to deliver a project with it. So in addition to personalisation being the key feature in 17.1, we've also updated the component, forms and content type activity screens to make sure you can see the changes that have been going on. This brings it in line with how the entry information panel works. And we've also introduced usage, so you can now see where a content type is referenced by another content type, where it's used through the UI as well. Also, if you're a developer working on components or content types, and you're working with multiple people in the team, it's often helpful to understand what changes have gone on. So now there's a diff compare view, so you can actually see the changes to that content type or component definition. We've also introduced some updates to Canvas. So there's a new abbreviation editor, which was suggested by a few people. I think first to suggest it were Heriot Watt, and other organisations followed. So we've introduced the abbreviation editor now. And you can now include asset and entries as entire blocks within the Canvas area. This means they no longer have to be inside a paragraph in order to display content. So if you want to reference, say, for example, a testimonial, you can link directly to the testimonial and have that rendered out in your front end render. So that's Canvas updates. And that brings us on to Contensis 17.2 and our future roadmap. Now, as I mentioned, there's lots going in the product at the moment, and I think I didn't save my change to update this artwork because the UI has changed. But what are content reviews? This is the next major feature that we've been focusing on, and is pretty much complete. That we've got a few things around email notifications that we're just finishing off. But content reviews are all about an ongoing process to ensure content relevance, accuracy, and the long-term value of your content. And we're going to do this in two different ways. We're going to offer the ability to set up regular schedules on content. So basically set something to be reviewed every 90 days or every 6 months in order to keep that content fresh. And that can be done through on a content type level. So you can set up a content type, say I want reviews every 90 days. And then you can also send out a notification to those users. So when should that notification go out? Well, in this example, they'll be notified 30 days beforehand. So they've got 30 days to deal with those reviews. So once those review schedules are set up, you can, within your entry editor, you can then begin to review page content. As soon as you start a review process, the content gets locked from editing, and the person who's responsible for the reviewing can carry out that review to ensure the content is either correct or meeting brand guidelines, is still relevant, and so on and so forth. If that content passes review, it just marks the completion of that review process until the next cycle event. Alternatively, if that review fails because there's significant work to do or rewriting to do, that can either be updated through in entry comments or in a generic failure option, as you see in the bottom toolbar. Review content can be displayed inside the entry listing. So once something has entered a review state, you can begin to see that content appear there. We also support the ability to create custom views with ZenQL, so you can really narrow down who should be seeing what content and share those with your team members. In addition to cyclical reviews, we're also introducing what we're calling on-demand reviews. So as a content author or somebody who's working in the system, or somebody who sees content on your website and you think, I'm not sure that that content is quite right, an individual now can request that an entry is reviewed. So from the entry, with the entry open, for editing, or just if it's in a preview mode, you can request a review on a particular piece of content. And when that content is open, maybe by the content author or the reviewer, they know that this needs a review. We've made it bold and clear that there's something in this content that is likely to need addressing. All of this is managed through traditional permissions. So you can assign users who should be responsible for carrying out reviews, and not everyone can carry out a review. When you upgrade, if there are users who are almost administrators of content at the moment, they will automatically become reviewers of that content unless you turn off that permission type in the role. You can also assign individual people to be responsible for reviewing an entry, and that carries on with the content through each review cycle unless it's changed. So users will begin to see in their entry listing which content is up for review and who's responsible for it. So here we can assign a reviewer to Drew, for example, and he will get a notification that he's been assigned as the reviewer. And when the review cycle comes up, he will see it in his listing to update and check that that content is still valid. As I mentioned, we've got full ZenQL support. Content reviews are a part of our workflow definition. So we get all the benefits of webhooks, of email notifications, and the ability to really hone in on particular types of content in Contensis. So I've got a couple of views set up here. So these are reviews with no assignees using a very simple query. I've got an example where any reviews that are overdue and how long they've been overdue, and any reviews that are specifically for me where I've been assigned as the reviewer. So all of these are configurable yourself. You could set these up for your organization as default views, so anytime somebody comes in, they can see reviews for me and view that content. Obviously, people need to be kept in the loop. So if they've got email notifications switched on, you'll get informed when a review has been requested, due, or assigned to you. And it's similar to our other notifications in Contensis. What we're trying to do is make sure that reviews are actionable, not just giving notification for the sake of giving a notification. So it's usually when something needs to be done. So yeah, we've kept to that focus on being actionable itself. So that's content reviews. Some of you may have seen or heard of our introduction of AI in Contensis, and over the next sort of 6 months, you're going to see a lot more work going into AI in Contensis. And we want to basically make it easier for content creation and management of that content with really focused tooling to support that need. AI in Contensis is currently powered by OpenAI. So Every AI action in Contensis is built on OpenAI's models. We're actually using 4.1, OpenAI's 4.1 models at the moment, both from a performance perspective. They are really focused and probably the most sustainable that they offer at the moment in terms of token usage, alongside sort of resource usage. But it's your project and they are your projects in your system. So it's your choice as to whether you want to have AI tools in a specific project. So you can turn it on at project level. We audit who turned it on, when they turned it on. So there's full understanding that these individuals have configured it for the project. So the first thing that we've got AI in is within the Canvas interface. So you can make text selections and execute what we call quick actions straight from the toolbar. So some examples could include shortening text, lengthening it, changing the tone to plain English. We've included this one because it covers GovUK principles. So if you've got content that you've written in a canvas, you can select that content, have it converted to plain English, and ensure you're meeting kind of keeping short paragraphs, making the reading age appropriate to a common reading age score, so that we find that one's going to be really helpful. You can also do things like generate SEO titles and descriptions from content in the canvas as well. Alongside Canvas tooling, we're also introducing AI into image actions. So in the last release, we enhanced the image gallery search, alongside fields just once they were inserted. So when you crop them, you can update metadata on those images and assets more easily. You can now use AI on images to generate titles, descriptions, alt text, and keywords, not only taking the laborious job of generating this content, but also making it easier to search and locate those assets at a later date. And so all those AI generated features will be available in the next release. AI is great until it sounds like every other piece of content that is generated out there. We all know what it looks like to see AI content in the wild. There are these things that we pick up on that, you know, that's probably AI generated. Every organization, whether you work in local government, private sector, or in HE, you need to be able to communicate consistently and with confidence and know that it sounds like who your brand is. So that's why we're going to be introducing brand voice, the ability to detect and add training material to your project that determines what your brand voice is. And then whenever AI is used, to utilize that brand voice so you've got that consistent tone in your organization. Effectively, a brand voice is that distinctive personality and the tone of your organization when you're communicating to your audience or customers. So we're going to do this by allowing you to analyze your content, and that can either be content that you copy and paste in to our tool, or alternatively by providing a set of URLs. So, for example, you may want to have one or more brand voices. And what I mean by that is, depending on the type of content, might suggest that you talk in a slightly different tone or with a different approach. So a university's academic research blogs might have a completely different reading age score and structure to maybe some core marketing copy that you might be writing. Or in local government, you might want to use more of a traditional gov.uk simplified content guidelines approach. So, as I mentioned, you can enable it on a per project basis, and from from this screen, you can analyze your content. So what's it look like? Well, once you've passed it, a set of URLs of some really good performing content, maybe look at Google Analytics or your analytics tool of choice and find some really well scoring content and use that to start finding your brand voice. We give a brand voice summary and we begin to break down all the voice traits that you're using within that content. And obviously, if you provide one URL of content, it might give you a slightly different brand voice to combining multiple articles together to see a commonality across your content. In addition to the core voice information and detection, we also detect the reading age score of your content using a Flesch-Kincaid readability score. And if you find that your content is coming across maybe a bit challenging, when you generate content with AI, we can use the override tool to maybe reshape your content a little bit more towards an easier reading age score. And we've also included a selection of inclusivity toggles allowing you to determine whether religious language can be used or gender neutral terms can be used, and maybe avoiding particular cultural references. So as said, we've got reading age analysis and overriding, inclusivity rules, terms to avoid that you don't want in your content. And from here now, you might want to set up a default brand voice. So for us at Zengenti, that might be a Zengenti brand voice for across all our products, across all our communication. And that might just define some core rules of our content. So whenever we generate content, we use that Zengenti brand voice. But we could also look to apply a different brand voice to different types of content. So we can allow you to set a brand voice against a content type. So you could say, I don't know, research or marketing blogs or news or events should use a different brand voice with a slightly different, maybe reading age score or approach. So it could look something like this. So your organization's voice is used on news and events. You might have a marketing voice that's used for blogs or courses, and then that research focus in the research pages of your site. Again, this is all backed by roles and permissions, so you can control who can create that brand voice in your project. So who can create them, update them, delete them, and publish those brand voices out. This, as I mentioned, will be tied into the Canvas tooling, and also what we're introducing as well in the next release is Contensis Assist. The ability to have a conversation with AI, not just getting quick actions to maybe shorten or extend some content, but to actually begin to chat with AI to improve the output that you're producing for your content. And I'll give you a demo of these features now. So let's switch over to Firefox and let's go to Contensis AI. I'll show you standard toolbar. So for example, if you're in Contensis now, for some reason, it's because there's a review in progress. Let's cancel this review. In the middle of a demo. Okay, so let's go to this open day copy. Go to our content. And so, for example, I might ask AI in this instance to shorten the text. And as you'll see in the right-hand side, it looks a bit odd. Ahoy, open day, be your golden ticket. Because it's fundamentally using a brand voice I created called a pirate brand voice. So all content now is being applied. So every time I carry out an action, whether it's shortening or lengthening content, is passing it into our brand voice. The brand voice is going, right, this is what pirate speak should look like, and then generating some replacement text for that content. So I can now replace that content in the editor and have it in that pirate context. So let's go and have a look at that brand voice. Brand voices are from your project settings. You have brand voices on a per project basis. And that's largely because we're aware that people often use Contensis with multiple projects that might not necessarily form part of the same brand. So here we are, we've got this pirate language. The brand voice is a playful and immersive, evoking a adventurous and spirited world of pirates through vivid nautical jargon and lively phrasing. And it's generated that from this content snippet here that I've included. So got this from Pirate Lipsum, pasted that content in, analyzed it in order to bring over these voice traits for that content. Alternatively, we could look at this Contensis blogs brand voice, and this is based on a series of recent blog posts from contensis.com. And from there, it's detected a different type of brand voice, is a professional yet approachable, focusing on clarity and practical guidance for digital content professionals with supportive and knowledgeable tone. So 2 different brand voices, which would result in 2 different types of content being generated. So that's brand voice and a little bit of the chat. So if we go into entries, let's find a course. In fact, content type of course. Look at this social work one and marketing content. Where is, okay. Within this course, I have a banner image. And to give you an example of how we can use the AI tools for an image, you can either through the image properties panel utilize generation of titles, descriptions, or keywords. So if I do a description on this one now, a young man with a beard carries a duffel bag over his shoulder while walking indoors, glancing backwards. So really short, succinct description that can be used for searching, and if you wish, use that on the front end site as well. Alternative text, I think this was manually written. So if I generate alt text for this now, man with a duffel bag over his shoulder, walking indoors near large windows and greenery. Much more descriptive and clearer to a screen reader user. And keywords, travel, maybe an airport, maybe we could take that one out. Luggage, departure, man, window, on a journey, maybe we remove that one. I'm not sure on transportation, could be a terminal building, but we'll focus on these core items. So that's updating image metadata from an image itself and passing that off to AI to give us some really tight responses. Now, all of these actions are unique AI prompts that we've written and tuned in order to get the best results we can. But obviously it's AI. So as people use it, if there's any feedback on this as well, we'll always be looking to making improvements here. So that's AI in images and assets. Again, here's an example of that chat. I haven't got it set to use the pirate tone. So as an example, you might want to create an outline on why study social work. Oh, it is using pirate. So if we go to content type, and go to content type settings and change this. It's because it's using the default brand voice, which is pirate. We go to Contensis blogs as an example. If we go back to that social work course, yeah, see here. If we had a canvas in here that we wanted to populate with content, I can say I want to create an outline. And what do you want to create an outline for? Why study social work? And so our outline prompt is basically taking that query and returning a set of outline headings of what we might want to include in that copy of why somebody should maybe start doing this course. We hope to add more tooling in here. So we've got outline, brainstorm ideas, and we've got a whole selection when you're using Canvas content. So if I go back to blog. Blog. Create a fresh blog a minute. So in here now, if we go back to chat, create an outline, the best cheese the UK has to offer. One of our developers, Dan, always uses cheese as his default. And interestingly, because we're using the pirate language, it's giving this outline within pirate language. But now this field has content, the options available for this field are different. So now we can analyze this content, which is quite a helpful tool. So looks at maybe the overall effectiveness, the engagement score, a readability score, the likelihood of this being written as a human, and AI usage likelihood as well. Interestingly, we obviously just generated this from AI, but because we had a core brand voice behind it and the prompt that we've directly created, it thinks it's more human than it is AI generated. And that's why often tooling that does AI detection can give false positives, because if you tailor things in the right way, you can make it sound more like a human. So those are the AI features coming to Contensis. We plan on releasing 17.2 in the new year, and we look forward to getting your feedback on these features. So that's Contensis Assist and the AI features demonstrated. What's coming up? Things that we're going to be looking at in 2026. So we've started the design and prototyping process around introducing a content calendar for teams, so you get an overall understanding of all the different scheduled content in Contensis, as well as offering more of a task management based process, allowing you to define drafts and when they need to be completed by. Alongside this, we'll also be introducing due dates to particular workflow events. So if you need approval in the next 7 days, you could set that due date and get notifications to align with that. We'll be bringing bulk actions in the new year. So we're starting with bulk delete, and we're partially way through development of this feature at the moment. So if you've used the new tags feature, we do bulk delete with it tags, and we're bringing this to entries as well. Entries have an additional complexity of language variations and different permissions that you may or may not have for grouping a bulk delete. So it will all be respecting those permissions. So that's ongoing, and following that will result in other bulk actions as well, archive, unpublish, setting content owner and such. So look out for that in the new year. We're also in discussion about this idea of component variations. At the moment, we're aware that people who are creating landing pages often use lots of different components to determine what something should look like on the front end of their site. Things like hero components often have 2 or 3 different layouts depending on how you want to use it on the front end. So we want to provide a visual representation of what that content might look like, and enable the switching of that content easily into those different variations as well. So you might have a left-aligned version of a hero, a right-aligned version. And at the moment, you've got to do this juggle between understanding what all the properties of a component are and how they affect the front end, as well as defining the content. So we want to make it simpler for editors to get on with focusing on the content, but also making it easier for developers on the front end to go, okay, there are 3 different layouts for this component, and I'll just focus on building those 3 layouts, because the more properties that are added, the more exponentially bigger that component complexity becomes in front end code. So that's component variations. We also continue to work on DAM. We're completely reworking the storage approach. We're moving over to Amazon S3 bucket storage for assets. Alongside that, we're supporting new methods of upload, supporting larger file sizes, and doing metadata extraction from those files to give you a richer understanding of assets in your system. As I said, the upload process has been ongoing, and that's actually supporting the introduction of upload fields in forms as well. So we'll be focusing on upload fields in forms in the new year, and then be beginning to work on the UI in haste in Q1 next year. And we've also been working on the workflow builder. So as we've introduced content reviews to our workflow definitions, we've recognized we need to do more work around visualizing workflows in Contensis. So there's a new workflow builder being worked on currently. And yeah, another exciting thing to look out in the new year. And if you've been using Insightful, we're looking to bring Insightful's analytics into entries as well to get a rich understanding of those visits to your entries directly from the entry editor as well. As usual, keep your eyes out on the Contensis Open Roadmap to see what's going on and what's in progress. And if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask us on Slack, and we'd be happy to answer.